What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grindline Podcast. This is episode 60, and I am here with Tyler tonight. Tyler, it's been a very interesting 2 days. How are you holding up?
Well, I'm holding up pretty good. I would say that overall it was a positive experience with Stevie Y being the GM for the first time and, conducting the draft the way he and his team, wanted it to be. So we'll delve into it, but I think overall positivity, I think you probably would agree with that.
I would. I think we started off worried, and
Yeah.
then as we dug into the prospects that were drafted, we found a lot of really good stuff. And it almost feels like maybe we're uncovering some things that other people didn't pay attention to, and that
Yeah.
we've got prospects, and there was some clear messages sent out, but we got a couple things to go over before we dive deep into the draft, because it's going to be one of our bigger episodes. The home opener was announced. It will be October 6, 2019 against the Dallas Stars at 5 p.m., which Tyler pointed out was really weird. And I agree. That's a really 5 p.m. is a really weird start time, because you normally get 1 p.m. or you get 7 p.m. if you're in Detroit. So 5 p.m. is a very odd start time. Is that a Saturday?
Sunday.
A Sunday at 5 p.m. So even weirder.
Yeah. Doesn't make
The
sense.
Red Wings will play their first game against the Montreal Canadiens, though, in Montreal. We are Montreal's home opener, I believe. So
Oh,
that
God.
is, yeah, that'll be if Zadina makes a roster, that'll be the Zadina versus Kotkaniemi showdown. If you didn't know, Montreal also got Cole Caulfield this weekend, so it should be an interesting time there to see what happens. But yep, October 6, 2019 against the Dallas Stars at 5 p.m. We will most likely be there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. Tyler will be in town. Me and Ryan are going to have to we're all going to have to coordinate getting tickets, but I think we will all be there. It should be a pretty sweet time. And again, if you came down to the draft party at Little Caesars Arena on Friday and saw me and Ryan, it was an awesome time. We met quite a few people. We had a really good time. If you didn't get pictures of us on Twitter, sucks to be you. But we hung out with a few people. We drank some beers. We saw the pics. We talked to Darren McCarty. We're gonna actually work it out with DMAC. DMAC's ended up coming on the podcast, so we talked to him a little bit, and we had a great time talking to people down there.
Yeah, fuck you, Greg.
I mean, hey, you could have come in.
Yeah.
That was your call, bud.
Yeah, no, I know that would have been cool. I am glad to hear that it was a success. I didn't think it wouldn't be, but I was a little skeptical. But then you realize and you remember the fact that Stevie Y, that's his first draft, and we have a top 10 pick, and this is about the future, not the past, and kind of where the past meets the future, I suppose, if you really want to put it that way. But I'm glad to hear it went well. I'm glad to hear you got to meet DMAC, talk a little bit to Ken Daniels a little bit, and that's good. That's all positive vibes, I would say.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, because the Red Wings haven't done a draft party recently, and in any of the years I can remember, I don't think they've done a draft party.
There's
And
no reason to.
So what I found was really cool was they anticipated getting 5,000 people signed up for the event, and they ended up getting 11,000.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a huge turnout. People were pumped. People are super happy. It's like the family's back together. Stevie's back. We got all these people here excited to watch the draft. I mean, food going, beer flowing. Everyone was happy. Inside the arena, me and Ryan and a few people ended up watching it outside on the big TV in Chevy Plaza. But it was a really cool experience. I hope they do it going forward. The weather was gorgeous. It was just a really good time.
I'm glad to hear that people came up to you guys and wanted pictures and wanted to talk to us or you guys, and I'm glad that many people know of us and that we continue to grow, and it's all because of you people that are listening to us. So
yeah, absolutely. So thank you to the listeners. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will be doing going to more events, doing more events next year coming up with this season. But we're gonna dive
Hopefully with me
into
involved.
yeah, you gotta get your ass down here. But we're gonna dive into the draft because we have a ton to talk about. And I think the big thing that happened first that kind of put instilled a shock in most of us initially was with the number 6 pick, the Detroit Red Wings picked Moritz Seider, a defenseman out of the Deutsche Elite League, which is the top German league. And in my notes, because I took a ton of notes, my note says immediate reaction, WTF. So I think that was the entire crowd's reaction because if you were watching the stream online, they showed a video, like a live feed of Chevy Plaza.
Yeah.
And for a second, everyone was silent and then they started clapping. And the only reason we started clapping is because we saw ourselves on TV. But we were all kind of in shock because of course Byram went to the Avs and Turcotte went to LA, and then we're sitting there and we're like, okay, well we got Zegras on the board, we got Caulfield on the board, and Eiserman comes up and he announces Moritz Seider, and we're all just so confused because you've got what some would consider an elite level talent center that's available. Some would consider an elite level winger that's available, and you take a defenseman. And you take a defenseman that not many people consider to be in the top 5, 6 defensemen available. But I'm going to go through a few things, and then I'm going to get your opinion on it, Tyler. So Moritz Seider, he's 6'4", 207 pounds. So he is an 18-year-old, and that's a man's body. That he's playing in a men's league. He's playing, I think middle minutes. So he's a top 4 guy. I think he started as a 6, like a bottom 4,
Yeah.
and then he came into a top 4 role. He did not get any power play time really last season. So the notes I have on him, he was a World Junior Championship MVP. He was considered one of the best defensemen at the World Junior Championship. He also played in the men's worlds until he got knocked out on a boarding from, I think they were playing in Czech Republic, and he got boarded and he got injured. So the notes on him, I've got big, mobile, no panic. That's the big thing. They say he does not show any panic in his game whatsoever. He has an amazing first pass. He's been playing with men. And the big thing is no power play time and no supporting cast. So he hasn't had people, amazing talent feeding him pucks. He hasn't had other draftees on his team that he's been feeding pucks to. It's basically him on that team. And Germany's not a real big, the DEL is not a huge league to pull talent from, but they're pulling him because of how he stood out on a team of people who are not being drafted, have never been drafted, or don't have any kind of upside to them to get them drafted. So, Tyler, if any minute you want to interject, let me know because
Yeah.
I've got a ton of notes.
Well, the only thing I'll say about the Dell, and the only reason I know this is I was listening to another podcast. I think it might have been Spittin' Chicklets, and they had someone on there who had played in all these different leagues, and they said the Dell may not be the greatest league in the world, but these guys work their absolute ass off, and like in practice and like just the physicality you have to be in and the shape you have to be in to play in some of these European leagues is just absolutely insane. And the fact that he's playing in a league like that at 18 years old tells me a lot.
And being pretty dominant too.
Yeah.
And it's a men's league. Any men's league, you're playing against guys who it's still their job. They're still getting paid to play hockey, and they have to put 110% in, or they're going to lose their job still.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what I've got is this is from Elite Prospects. Seider is a mobile and very smart two-way defenseman with few weaknesses, plays a mature game with strong and consistent defensive decisions. Offensively, his vision allows him to be a very good passer, and he is also good at getting his shot through. His best attribute is his hockey sense. It's high end. He can anticipate plays, sometimes 2 steps ahead of his opponents. And I think that's a big thing. He thinks further ahead than the people he goes up against, and that lets him get out that first pass. And I don't remember who it was yesterday, but I heard a quote that says it's almost as if the first guy in front of him, that initial screen doesn't matter. He looks past that screen and he makes plays through people. which is important for a defenseman. They have
Absolutely.
his back. His backward speed and mobility allows him to play a tight gap in the neutral zone. Defensively sound and can be relied upon on the penalty kill because of his great gap control. He recognizes his opponents when playing the puck and rarely makes an unforced error. That's a big thing. No errors coming from him. He had 6 points in 29 games played for Adler Mannheim in the DEL. Again, that's 6 points in 29 games, no power play time. In the under 20, he was a captain of the under 20 of the World Juniors, where he had 7 points in 5 games. At the World Championship, so the over 18, he had 2 goals in 5 games, and then he got injured. So his numbers are really good. He was I think as surprised as we were that we picked him.
Yeah.
But this was Stevie's guy. Stevie said we were taking him at 6 or 35. He wasn't going to be there at 35. They tried to trade down, didn't find a deal they liked, so they took him at 6. And these are the kind of deals that he had enough faith in a guy that even if there were better forwards available at that position, he knew that this was a guy he could not pass on.
Which to me, like, all right, so I'll just break it down for you. So initially, I had people over the house, and my dad was here, and my buddy Connor was here, who's a Bruins fan. My neighbor Brian was here, who's a Red Wings fan, and you know, we're waiting for them to say Zegras, or we're waiting for them to say Caulfield, or I'm standing up, I'm recording it on my phone, and initially I hear them say from Mannheim. I'm like, well, that's not Caulfield, and that's not
Zegras at all.
That's not Zegras, and that's not anybody that I know. So who the fuck is this? And so initially I was pissed. I was really pissed. I'm like, are you serious? Why does this organization always have to do this? They always have to reach. They always do this. And then, you know, I settled down a little bit, and I thought about it, and I went to Twitter, and I was pissed initially. And then I started reading up on him and looking stuff up about him and reading elite prospects. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, so maybe this is just a diamond in the rough. And then the stuff starts coming out that Yzerman was going to take this guy and this and that. And then after the fact, I went back and I saw the fact that Yzerman was so confident in this pick that at the end of reading and listening to how confident he was in the pick, I'm like, okay, you know what? I may not be confident in this pick, and I may never be confident in this pick, but you know what? The guy that made the pick, the guy that believes in the kid, he made the pick, and that's what he believed in. So he's going to hang his hat on that, and I hope to God he is right, because if he's not, that's a huge miss. That's a huge miss, because there was tremendous players there. Zegras, there was Caulfield, who's probably going to score 30 to 35 goals in the NHL at one point or another.
Cousins was there.
Cousins was there, who I don't really love. Kirby Doc, I didn't like at all, and I'm kind of glad he was gone before we were there to make that decision. However, like I said, at first I was pissed. As we went on, I got a lot more comfortable, and now I've kind of come around on this. And now that I saw what the approach was throughout the draft, I kind of understood where Yzerman was coming from. And you know what? Yzerman liked the kid. He tried to trade down. He did everything he could to get more compensation and still get the player he wanted. He couldn't do it. So you know what? He drafted the kid at 6. And you know what? 5 years from now, or maybe even 2 years from now, we'll be saying, man, this kid's a number 1 defenseman, or this kid is a top pair defenseman. And if that's the case, then Yzerman's a winner. If this kid doesn't ever sniff the NHL, that's tough. You missed on a top 5, a top 6 pick. But you know what? That's the draft. That's life, really. I mean, it's a huge risk. It's a huge risk, but it's a high reward. So I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and Seider was ranked anywhere between 10 and 22. So you know he wasn't going to be there at 35.
No way.
I mean, so The Athletic had him ranked 22. HockeyProspects.com had him at 10. Future Considerations had him at 16. ISS had him at 17. and this is one that I thought was really interesting. So we're going to go a lot by this throughout the podcast. McKean's Hockey had him ranked at 15. Uh, I cross-referenced a lot of who the Red Wings took with McKean's, and it is very close. So NHL Central Scouting for European skaters had him ranked number 6. He was 18 by Elite Prospects, and he was 16 by Bob McKenzie. So that's a pretty good list. And I mean, the more I look at it and the more I watch tape on him and the more I see how confident he is, how he moves, how he distributes the puck, we need defensemen. In the that was the theme throughout the night. Was clearly what happened is Yzerman came in to the organization, looked at our defensive pipeline and said, "This is complete shit. We're
And
blowing
it's
it up."
not good enough. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And that was a consensus on Twitter today. I mean, like, even I don't want to go too far into the other picks, because I'm sure we'll do that
Oh,
as
we
we
are.
go on here. But the consensus was big defenseman, not just defenseman,
No,
big,
big
big
defenseman.
defenseman, kind of modeling what St. Louis did.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is if you notice, the Red Wings did not pick a single player from the CHL this whole draft.
Which I don't understand, to be honest with you.
So I and it could just be they thought there were other better players available. One of my thoughts was maybe they want to fast track some of these people to the AHL, and they can't do that if they're from the CHL.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So
expedite the rebuild a little bit.
yeah, get them in with men, get them playing with men, even if it's at a lower level. But it's
So
to
my
me,
question to you, Greg, is: do you see Seider playing in the AHL next year?
no, I think they'll leave him in Germany for one more year. He may start the 2020-21 season in the Griffins and come to the Red Wings, or if he blows it up in Germany, they might put him right on the team. But I think he'll play another unless Yzerman is so forward on this pick and there is room on the Grand Rapids team. I think he could play with Grand Rapids because like we said, he's been playing with men. So
I think
I
that's
just
I think that's the approach they should have. To be honest with you,
I think they should too, but I don't know how much room there is. And then you know that McIsaac is going to go back to juniors most likely. So I think you could get Seider onto Grand Rapids. I just don't know if they want to push it that far right now. But we'll see. It's completely possible.
we'll see. Yeah, there's also possible trades that really didn't happen today, but that free agency is on. What do we have? A week or so for free agency. So I mean that's also looming. So there's going to be movement in the league. There's
Yeah.
there's going to be a ton of movement, and the reason there wasn't this weekend is because there was no firm cap number until the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, did it get put at 81.5?
Yes,
Yeah,
81.5.
81. Yeah, when they thought it could have been as high as 84. So, yeah, there's some disappointed GMs, and we'll actually I'll go over this real quick. For those if you didn't see, and I don't know how you couldn't, PK Subban got traded from Nashville to the New Jersey Devils for 2 random guys and 2 second-round picks. And so basically New Jersey's killing it with trades. The other one was Vancouver got JT Miller from. They gave Tampa a conditional first.
Yeah, I
So
don't understand that.
I'm not sure if they didn't realize that Tampa needed to clear space to sign Braden Point, but they basically helped them and gave up a first round pick.
Well, they must
So
like the player a lot. They must like JT Miller a lot.
JT Miller's a good player, but he's not give up 3 assets and help a team who's in cap crunch trying to sign a young guy kind of
Yeah, no,
player.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But you will see more trades coming up soon. So in the second round, the Red Wings drafted another defenseman, 6'4", 494-pound Antti Tuomisto, 35th overall. He was ranked 44 by McKean's. So there were other forwards on the table that many people on Twitter wanted, but we went with another one where when we picked him, everyone's like, "Who the hell is that?"
Mm-hmm.
So the notes on him is Tuomisto has a cannon of a point shot with both accuracy and power. His hands are smooth. That's from McKean's. When he's on his game, he makes a good first pass with good accuracy, and he displays powerful strides and is hard to knock off the puck. So again, big, heavy defenseman. And we also picked a lot of right-handed defensemen. That's the other thing. So,
Yeah. Well, most
in
of the defensemen we have, besides Aronik, are left-handed. So
yeah, and last season he played with Assad under 18 in Finland with the Junior B team. He had 2 games played with 1 goal. The Junior A team, he had 45 games played with 35 points, 9 goals, 26 assists. He played with Finland's under 18 team in the World Juniors, 5 games, 2 assists. And his whole international totals for this year, he 19 games played with 15 points. So this is another guy that's going to be a stash. He'll go back to Finland. But this is what started where we're like, we're just going to take a ton of defensemen, aren't we? And we just kept taking defenseman after defenseman, which is how you know that our defensive pipeline is garbage and it's going away. So it should be interesting to see what kind of moves come up with current defensemen in the system when we have this influx of like 8 guys coming in.
yeah, because I feel like Eisenman took a look at it and he's like, yeah, this is not even near good enough. Not even
Yeah.
near good. Not any of the players that are overseas and not any of the players that are in Grand Rapids right now.
Yeah, but
Outside of maybe Kowalski and Hronik.
Tuamisto I couldn't find a lot of stuff on, but the size. You'll notice a trend where the size is big. We'll pick 3 or 4 huge guys and then a small guy, and then 3 or 4 more huge guys and a small guy. So in
I just
round
hope these big guys that he drafted can skate because this game is going into it's a track meet nowadays. It's not smash mouth hockey. It's a track meet. Obviously in the playoffs it becomes smash mouth hockey, and that's why Tampa couldn't win. But I mean, it's the way I look at it is like I hope these guys can all skate. I really do.
I didn't see anything in any of the reports that said bad skating. So that kind of helps me a little bit. And skating there's somewhat of it is natural talent, but there are systems now that can really help develop skating in someone as long as they have the baseline ability to do it.
Yeah.
So into the third round, or no, still second round. So second round, we chose with our second pick Robert Mastro Simoni.
Hmm.
He is a center. This is where he picked a smaller guy, 5'10", 170 pounds. Smaller guy. He was taken 57th overall. He was ranked 27 by McKean's.
Wow.
So yeah, and there were a bunch of other sites had him going higher than he did. He was ranked 26 by The Athletic, 93 by Hockey Prospects, 47 by Future Considerations, 53 by North American Central Scouting, and 39 by Elite Prospects, 51 by Bob McKenzie. So by all accounts, besides Hockey Prospects, we were pretty. This was my notes say first round offensive talent that you wanted to get in the second round.
Yep.
So because he's small, he slipped to the second, and we were able to get what a lot of people would consider a first round talent offensively. The
Kind of like
notes are
last year, or I'm sorry, Bergeron.
yeah. My notes are he has a type of player who has a nonstop motor and plays a fearless brand of hockey. That was McKean's note. Has a quick, accurate release on his shot and is expert at using toe drags to get around defenders. So that's a Patrick Kane move. In 2018-19, he played for the Chicago Steel in the USHL and had 60 points in 54 games, 31 goals and 29 assists. And in the playoffs, he had 15 points in 11 games, 7 goals and 8 assists. He is committed to Boston University next year.
Yeah.
He is described as a bulldog. He has Dylan Larkin type qualities of passion for the game. He's the kind of guy that's out there all the time, loves the game, wants to be on the ice, wants to make himself better. If he can put on weight, if he can be 5'10", 185, 190, that's going to be super helpful. But he has the offensive talent of a first round player. He's just a little smaller.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is too, I mean, he's he went to a great high school like Shattuck St. Mary's. Like, you know, guys like Jonathan Taves and Sidney Crosby have gone to a school like that, and like that's an elite prep school. And the fact that, you know, he even played for the national development program, not the U20 but the U18 team. He played 4 games there, and he had one assist. But I mean, he only played 4 games, and the fact is that this kid is going to be one of those kids that can bring you out of your seat offensively, I believe. And I think you're going to see this guy in a winged wheel at some point. I really do. I think this guy's going to be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and they were looking. People were saying, "Well, we're so thin at center. We're so thin at center." If Master Simone can come in and be a third line center and be a Dylan Larkin type player, and maybe it's not 2 years from now, maybe it's 3 or 4 years from now, he comes in, and you've already got Dylan Larkin's, of course, your solidified 1C. Veleno could be in the Red Wings for 2 seasons by then. He's probably gonna be your solidified 2C. If Master Simone can come in and be your 3C and have the same kind of drive as Dylan Larkin and offensive production to go with it, that's a dangerous 3 centermen, 3 top lines on the wings where we've got now a top line, 2/3 of a second line, and 2 fourth lines basically. So if you
Yeah,
can roll 3 really solid lines, this is a good move towards the rebuild. And the kid just, I mean, he wants to play and he's excited to play. And of course, he's a little small, but he was drafted where, I mean, late for where he should have been.
absolutely. I mean, I feel like this is an upside pick, definitely. I mean, like you said, it's a first round talent in the second round. I mean, how can you go wrong there? You know what I mean?
Yep. So our next pick was 60th overall, Albert Johansson, a defenseman from Sweden, I believe. That's right. Yep, from
Yeah,
Sweden. 6 foot 168, so 6 feet tall, 168. Again, he's an average size defenseman, but he was taken 60th overall. McKean's had him at 26.
jeez.
So the McKean's list has been pretty good. And if they're looking at any kind of mocks, the office, I know they do all their scouting and everything, but they have to also look at what other people are looking at. And to get him at 60, the notes are he sees the ice well, has a high panic threshold, and can adjust his style of play to what's needed. And that's one of the big things that we heard about Seider is he has no panic. That's the thing when he sees people coming in and encroaching on him, he doesn't freak out. He can still get off the first pass to the closest person. He's a very good skater with fluid strides. He has quick first steps and is adept at handling the puck as he accelerates to top speed. Has a hard shot from the blue line. Is not afraid to shoot the puck.
You see a theme here, Greg? You see a theme?
Big, calm shooting defenseman.
Yes. Guys that shoot the puck. When was the last
Exactly.
time we had a defenseman besides Hronek that shoots the puck?
Yeah, Mike Green and Hronek are the two.
Yeah, but Mike Green's not a guy that we developed.
No, you mean develop. The Red
Yeah,
Wings are notorious for not developing great defensemen since
we haven't
Lidstrom left.
we haven't developed a good defenseman in a long time.
So now we have a million defensemen that we can develop.
I'm hoping it goes well.
2018-19, he played through, man, he played for Farstad BK in the J18 Elite. He had 4 points in 4 games. He played for the same team in the J18 Allsvenskan, had 2 points in 1 game. He played for Farstad BK J20 in the Super Elite for 40. So that's where he spent most of his time. 40 games, 29 points, 5 goals, 24 assists. He also played in the Sweden World Junior Championship with 1 point in 7 games. And his entire international for this year, he had 22 games played with 3 assists. So he's a bigger defenseman. He likes to shoot the puck. If he has forwards in front that can finish, that's probably where he's going to be the best. But again, big puck moving, puck shooting defenseman. So again, you're going to see the theme come through with that. Also, he had gold with Team Sweden. So that was another theme that I saw through a lot of the picks. Is a lot of the picks that we had, whether it be Finnish players, Swedish players, even the German, they all won awards this last season. Whether it was World Junior Championship awards, whether it was they won their league playoffs, their league championships. We picked a lot of guys who were on teams that won, and they seem to have been large contributors to that team winning.
Which is a good thing. I mean, if you're going to win a Stanley Cup at some point, you have to have winners on your team. That sounds like an obvious statement, but I mean like players that are winning players, not cancerous.
That have experience winning.
That are all about themselves. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a pick that was also kind of off the wall. No one saw it coming. But the next pick is again where we got a good value pick. And I think 66, that's the third round at that point. At 66 overall, we picked Albin Grew, a center right wing out of Sweden. 6 feet tall, 187 pounds. This is a guy I tweeted out a meme of him a while ago when he was at the combine. He was asked who his favorite NHL player was, and he said he liked Brad Marchand a lot.
Oh, God.
I can see why, because he's kind of the same style player. In your face, gritty, open ice hits. There was a good one. I think Corey Prom had tweeted it out, a reverse hit where he had the puck. He had the puck and he was coming through center ice, and a guy thought he was going to stand him up, and Grew just blasted the dude and laid him down. So 66 overall, he was ranked 56 by McKeen's. So this is a value pick that probably should have went in the second round that we ended up getting in the third.
And he was ranked 40 by future considerations as well.
Yeah, so he was ranked, I mean, early second round talent. His notes are a strong skater who's relentless on the forecheck and a serious trash talker who gets under the skin of his opponents each night. So what I saw, some of the notes were that he likes Marchand. He's a Marchand style player. Some people said his ceiling is probably Tyler Bertuzzi, but we don't even know what Tyler Bertuzzi's ceiling is right now.
Okay.
And I'll take another pesty Tyler Bertuzzi type player who's going to score you over 20 goals a season.
Yeah, absolutely.
It says Grew is willing to play a committed brand of defense, blocking shots and getting his stick onto the puck. That's another thing we need, is people to get the puck away.
That sounds like me, a winner player. That's another winner player, guy that's not afraid to block shots, not afraid to kill penalties. Those are the type of players you need on a team to win.
Exactly. It says playing with considerable energy is a threat down the right side when he puts his shoulder down to attack wide and drive the net. He's at the top of the food chain. He calls himself a T-Rex, eats everything, and thinks everything is under him. He holds himself above all the other players on the ice. Slick stick handler, dangerous in the offensive, and plays a fast game, works hard every shift, deadly on the power play. So this guy has a ton of upside, and why I think he slipped a little further is some teams may see it as an attitude issue because some may see him as overly confident. The thing is we do not have a player like that right now.
No, absolutely not.
My notes say every outlet had him ranked higher. Huge presence, big open ice hits, Marchand type. Some are giving a Tyler Bertuzzi comparable. Could have been an early to mid second. In his last season, he played with Djurgården IFJ18 in the Allsvenskan. He was on the team for 3 playoff games and had 2 points. He played at Djurgården Super Elite, 25 games, 34 points in 25 games, 13 goals, 21 assists, plus 12. I hate plus minus, which is plus 12. 8 playoff games there, he had 6 points. And then in 15 games in the SHL, he had 0 points, but he most likely didn't get a ton of minutes there. Again, he's a World Junior player. He played 7 games and had 2 points, and in his total internationals for last season, 18 games and 9 points. So the guy is, to me, this again, like Maestro Simone, is a quality pick for where you picked him up at.
Come on,
even though he compares himself to Marchand.
Get it right.
Maestro Simone. Like I'm gonna meet him at the Olive Garden or somewhere. But Albin Grew seems like another one of those guys that in 2 to 3 seasons he could come right in, play a third, fourth line role, and just destroy people.
Yeah, which is fun to watch at the end of the day too.
Which is fun to watch. Yeah. So I see him as, so people are saying Brad Marchand, people are saying Tyler Bertuzzi. To me, he could almost be maybe a Tom Wilson kind of
Yeah, I was
guy.
about to say that because he's 6 foot tall.
Yeah, so he's average size. He's a little heavier, but I think he could be a Tom Wilson kind of guy where he's just a shit disturber. He runs around, he destroys dudes on the ice, but he can also, he is what people freaking grasp for Luke Witkowski, but like this is a Luke Witkowski with skill, not just a guy who wants to beat people up. He can beat people up with a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what
So
they need.
yeah, I think Albin Grew is a good pick, and to me, if we could get what was Brad Marchand taken in the fourth round? I think
I
Brad
think
Marchand
close
was
to that. Yeah,
a fourth or later. But if we could find a guy like that who eventually develops into a pretty high end player, who also is pretty like
annoying.
physical with his play, that's exactly what we needed. At 66, that was a quality pick because he should have been a high to mid second rounder.
Greg, the other thing that I noticed too, and I kind of noticed this last night, but even more so today, it feels like Osman took a look at it, obviously didn't like the defense and all of that. But I feel like he also wanted to draft guys that were harder to play against.
Yeah, he wanted to inject a little bit of, like he said, size and grit,
Yep,
and
physicality.
which is we're okay with it. We're super fine with physicality. Great. Brings a great aspect of the game as long as you can contribute and as long as you have some skill and you can get the puck toward the net. I have no problem with someone like Grew knocking someone on their ass as long as he then can get the puck to someone or can put the puck in the net.
As long as you control it too, and you don't take stupid ass penalties.
Exactly.
You know.
So, quality pick.
Yep.
So then we moved on to pick 97. We grabbed Ethan Phillips, who's a forward, 5'9", 146. So this was the smallest guy we drafted. This is, again, he was ranked 129 by McKean's, but he ranked as high as 50 by other sources. So between 50 and 129, which is a huge gap, which tells me no one had a clear view of his entire game. The note on him is defensively, he is a smart player who manages risk and reward and is an effective shutdown guy at his foundation. He's a forward. He's listed as a forward. The interesting thing with him, so I've got my notes as small but has motor. 2018-19, he played for the Selects Hockey Academy in midget. So he doesn't have a huge background. His
No.
midget, he played midget in 2018-19 and had 19 points in 21 games. He moved down to the Sioux Falls Stampede in the USHL and had 43 points in 50 games, 16 goals, 27 assists. In 6 playoff games for Sioux, because Sioux Falls made the playoffs, he had in 6 games had 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points.
And guess
He
where
is
he's going to school next year?
Boston University.
Well, you know what? You laugh, but they have developed some really good players over the last few years. You know,
They
so
do.
I mean, obviously Eichel anybody could have developed, but Charlie McAvoy was a guy, and even Matt Grzelcyk, who's with the Bruins, and like they've done a very good job for a long time. Now, granted, it's not the same coach, but just the pipeline team to the NHL seems like it's just continues to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the thing that I have that was also interesting, his family was the Billet family for Zadina and Nico Hischier.
Really?
Yeah, so he's pretty good friends with Philip Zadina, and to be around other guys that can show you how to play or that have been drafted high. I mean, Nico Hischier was a first overall draft pick. Philip Zadina fell to us at 6, should have been a top 3, and he's been around guys like that.
Greg,
Now,
did Sioux Falls win it all this year?
they had 6 games, so I don't think so.
Well, the picture on Elite Prospects has him holding up a trophy.
I mean, it could have. I
So
I
if they
didn't look that.
did, if you scroll up, yeah, he's got a trophy in his hand, hoisting
Yeah,
it.
I didn't look that far into it, but I mean, the big thing about him is he's small. He's super light right now. If he could be 5'9" and he could get to 170, he'd have to put on 25 pounds. He has to put on 25 pounds. He can get to 170. That's a lot of training. He could grow a little taller, but I don't think it's going to happen. But again, small guy with motor. If you can put him on a wing on a third line and have him just run up the thing is guys that small, it's normally speed and evasiveness. But it says he's also really good defensively. So if you can get a third line forward that is small enough to have speed, but also good in the defensive zone, I think that's your guy. And they say he's an effective shutdown guy. And at 5'9", 146, to me that's kind of hard to believe. But I need to go watch tape on him. But again, this seems like if he ranked as high as 50 on some mocks, at 97, I don't see why not taking a chance on him.
Absolutely. Just taking chances on players and seeing the upside. I mean, that it feels like all of these picks so far, we haven't gotten into the, ones further along in the draft, but they all seem to have really good value.
The next one is actually really interesting, and it's something that doesn't happen very often. The Wings drafted at 128 Cooper Moore. He's a 6'1", 181-pound defenseman. So again, average height, heavier guy. A lot of the guys that we drafted, I would say 80% of them, they're NHL weight. They're ready to go. So Cooper Moore is a defenseman. We drafted him 128. He was ranked the 88th U.S. skater by Central Scouting. NHL Central Scouting is the only source based on elite prospects that had him ranked. No one else ranked him. The other interesting part is he was drafted out of high school. So that is a fairly uncommon to draft a player out of high school. Normally you're drafting them from juniors, you're drafting them from an overseas league. He played for the Mid-Fairfield Rangers for midget in 2018-19. In 7 games, he had 3 points. He played for Brunswick School A, the United States high school prep program, and in 28 games had 31 points, 13 goals, 18 assists as a defenseman.
Pretty close to me, actually.
Now there is Cooper Moore. He's committed to Chilliwack next season, so he'll be playing in the BCHL. That's where Dennis Cholowski played. Mm-hmm. He is also committed in 2020 to the University of North Dakota, but there's a pretty interesting story around Cooper Moore. NHL scouts and college coaches were at Exeter Academy in New Hampshire for a tournament. I think it was last year. I mean, every major high school tournament is going to get scouted. What happened there was kind of what put them on his path. So Cooper Moore was uncommitted and draft eligible. First 4 minutes of the game, he scored a power play goal to give Brunswick a 1-0 lead. And then in the second period, he had another goal that was at even strength. But his team, he had the first 2 goals for his team, but they fell behind 6-2. So in the third period, one of his teammates scored to make it 6-3. And then Cooper Moore took over the entire game. He had 3 goals in under 3 minutes. One on the power play and back-to-back even strength in 22 seconds to tie the game. Yeah. So he's a defenseman who he also almost won the game in overtime, hitting the post off the draw. It would have been his 6th goal. So he had a 5-goal game in the tournament as a defenseman. The quote is, anything that the goalie saw coming from Cooper's stick was an uh-oh, I'm in trouble moment. Jeez. So Brunswick's coach is Mike Kennedy. Apparently his phone began ringing off the hook. Scouts wanted info on Cooper. So did colleges. He got a ton of offers. He brought it down to University of North Dakota and Boston College. He visited both campuses and he decided on the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, it's a good thing he picked North Dakota. Boston College is, we don't get into that. But
yeah.
Again, he's going to another great institution. The University of North Dakota, has fed players into the NHL. like Zach Parise, TJ Oshie. There's a ton of other players that I can't think of at the moment, but a ton of players that they've fed into the NHL. And like, not that this kid's going to be in the NHL right away, but the fact that this is just another one of the examples of nobody saw any value in this kid, and somehow the Red Wings did, and they must have watched this kid all year long, at the Brunswick school. They must have watched this kid from the start of the high school hockey season until the end of it, and they must have even probably went to one of the midget games for the Mid Fairfield Rangers, so the U18. They must have been on this kid all year long.
An NHL scout said he absolutely has NHL skating ability. His best attribute, no question, is his skating. He competes hard. He has a good shot. The foundation of his game is his skating and his shot. He needs coaching to learn how to manage the game, think the game through, where to go with the puck, how to defend, and positional play. He makes some mental errors. It says, I'm glad he's going to juniors this year. It'll be really good for him. He needs time. So he is a project player, but the upside on him, I think, outweighs. I mean, you did what, a 6th-round pick on him?
Yes.
So anything
Fifth.
you get from him, if he makes the team, is just, I mean, extra. That's extra.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At this point, you're just shooting, your shots in the dark.
Maybe it's a 5th round. Maybe a
Yeah,
5th-round pick.
like I said, fifth round, 128th overall. That's what it was. But yeah, at that point, you're putting shots in the dark, and if they really like this kid, they drafted him.
Yeah, then the things that they say he needs to work on, those are all teachable. Game management is teachable. Game visualization is teachable. Figuring out plays and who to defend, where and when, that's teachable. Skating is harder to teach. Shots are harder to teach. So if he has the two foundational things that are more talent driven, he can be taught the rest of the game, and I think he could be a really good sleeper pick.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on to, when I saw this was a really an interesting pick for me. So drafted 159th overall, ranked 159 by McKean's. So you see how they are kind of lining up? We picked who McKean's ranked at 159, who was Elmer Soderblom from Sweden, center winger, 6'7", 220 pounds. The dude is an absolute unit. My
he makes
notes.
Mantle look small.
Yeah, my notes. He's our Chara, really. He's 17 years old. Huge. My notes are huge open ice hits, brick wall, Red Wings Chara. So
6'7", 220. That's an NHL body right there.
That's a MMA body right there. He's 17 years old, so he's not
How much
done.
bigger can the kid get?
So I mean, if he grows another inch, figure he gets 6'8", 250.
Yeah, but can you move in the NHL like that at 6'8", 250?
Chara is 6'9", 250.
Yeah, but we're talking about a forward here, not a defenseman.
So here's his notes. He's more of a stick handler than a forward that will crash the net and throw big hits. Soderblom owns great hands for his size and likes to take the puck to the net. There is an incredible gif of him just skating through people to the net and just putting the puck in the net. And it's just, no one can stop him because he's so big and so heavy that it's like, if you're watching an action movie and there's a scene about like a runaway semi truck and it's driving down the highway and pushing all the other cars out of the way, that's what this guy does. In 2018-19, he played for Frölunda in the J18 Elite. 3 games, had 3 points. He played in Frölunda for the J18 Allsvenskan, 8 games, 3 points. 7 playoff games, 6 points. And then he played for the Frölunda HCJ20 in the Super Elite, 44 games, 17 points, and then 6 playoff games, 4 points. He also played in the World Juniors, surprise, 7 games, 1 point, and his international total is 18 games, 5 points. So this is another guy that if he can come in as even a 4C at 6'7", 220, and he's not done. Like, he turns 18 at the beginning of July. So put him in a gym and maybe he grows another inch. That's again, gold medal World Junior Championship. He's a big dude. Um, I've already seen on Twitter. He looks like he could be related to Lidstrom. He's he's a big boy,
I love
huge
the
tank.
name too. I know we're more about stats and we're more about the actual player, but the name is great. I could see that on the name of the back of a Red Wing sweater at some point.
Yeah. I mean I went out and I looked because I see the size and I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, this guy's gonna be slow. But he cuts through lines. He drives the net. He puts pucks on net. He's, I mean, long legs, so big stride, and
Yeah,
he's not he. From what I looked at, he's not clumsy.
good.
He's,
That's hard not to be clumsy at that height.
exactly, because normally you're big and you're lanky. He's big and he's big, so it's he's just a huge dude.
Dude, you could
And
put this guy as the 4 center right now, and he'd be better than Luke Glendening.
yeah, no one's getting pucks off of him. Next at 177, he was unranked. The Red Wings picked Gustav Berglund, so we got another Gustav. We had to replace Nyquist. We got a new one. Gustav Berglund, again, a defenseman from Sweden. So we got quite a few Swedish players this year. We're restocking our cabinets on Swedes, but bigger guy, 6'2", 194. In 2018, he played for the Frölunda HCJ18 Elite. In 15 games, he had 18 points, so 6 goals and 12 assists. For the J18 Allsvenskan, he played 13 games and had 11 points. And he played 9 games for Frölunda Super Elite with 0 points. So my notes is I know nothing about him. I
Yeah,
had no opportunity to look at him. He was unranked. He wasn't on anyone's radar. But I mean, Swedish guy, the Swedes did very well internationally, and I have no problem picking up more Swedish players.
and the fact that he's a Frölunda guy, I mean, that's a historic organization over in Sweden, you know. So
Yep.
that's again, I mean, they're taking guys from organizations and you know situations that they know already. There has been players in the Red Wing
There's
organization
been success.
that have had success, or guys in the NHL that have had success and played it for Frölunda.
Yep, absolutely. So drafted 190, again unranked. Was 5'9", 146-pound Kirill. God, this sucks. I really hope he never makes the team. Tyutyayev. 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 A forward. So he said drafted 190. These are the super reach guys that'll probably never see ice time in the NHL. But the interesting stuff about him, he was born in Yekaterinburg, which is where Datsuk was born. Last season played for Datsuk's hometown team.
Yep.
He will play with Datsuk next year.
No, he's playing in the KHL.
Well, it says MHL.
So that's the AHL of the Russian league. That's the MHL.
But it's the same team name.
I
So
understand that. Yeah, it is.
yeah.
But
So
that's how they do it in Russia.
So 2018-19, he played for Avto, which is Avto Mobilist Yekaterinburg, MHL, so they're AHL. He has 60 points in 60 games, so a point per game in the juniors. He had 14 points in 20 playoff games, so 19 goals, 41 assists in the junior regular season, 5 goals, 9 assists in the playoffs. He was a plus in both. He was a plus 39 in the regular season and a plus 8 in the playoffs. So he should make the pro team next season. And next season would be playing with Datsuk in the KHL for Yekaterinburg, which is a huge plus to be playing with a former legend of the team you were just drafted to. But again, not a lot of information on him because he was unranked. No one was looking at him. And this is to the point where you go, well, maybe you get lightning in a bottle twice. You went and found Pavel Datsuk the first time in his hometown in Russia where no one else looked, no one else ranked him, nothing. So maybe you're trying to go back to the same fishing hole. You're looking at this kid, smaller kid, I mean 5'9", 146. He can put on weight. He might grow an inch or two. But you're looking at this kid and you're saying, man, if he can play next year with Datsuk, and if he's playing juniors in the same area where Datsuk was growing up, maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle twice.
It's a very rare thing, but you keep knocking on that door. Eventually, it opens up, and I think obviously we don't know a ton about this kid.
And you took him 190.
and
So
you
if
took
he
him
doesn't
190. So
if he
there's
doesn't pan out, who cares?
yeah, there's no at this point of the draft, you're shooting your shots in the dark, and if they don't work out, they don't work out. Most of the time they don't, but sometimes they do, and those are the times where you get a Pavel Datsuk, or you get a Henrik Seiderberg, or you get a Nicholas Lidstrom, or you get a player like that deep in the draft.
At this point, at this late, a seventh round, it's unknown. He was one of the last picks, and I'll take an unknown chance that maybe you go back and you hit a little Russian magic and something happens and this kid just destroys the KHL at 19 years old. I mean, a point per game in any junior league, and if you look at if you say that the KHL is above the AHL but but is below the NHL, if you say that the MHL is the KHL's juniors, you could probably rank it MHL, AHL, KHL, NHL,
They
right?
also have the VHL, which is also like an AHL for the KHL. A lot
But
of
I
HL.
but I think that if he can move up and he can keep producing at a KHL level on what I'm assuming the Yekaterinburg team is not fantastic. So I think if he could learn from Datsuk, play with Datsuk, maybe get a season under his belt, get over, maybe play 1 or 2 seasons over there, come over here, play for Toledo or Grand Rapids. I mean, probably the slimmest of chances of him getting to the NHL. But if he turns it on, he proves that he's great. I mean, we could have another great Russian player in Detroit, which is a
Yeah,
hope. It's a hope. And
I
if he
don't
doesn't,
understand why we didn't take more Russians. To be honest, there was so many taken today.
but the hope is that, I mean, seventh round pick, the chances of them making to the NHL are almost nothing. So if he's nothing, he's nothing. And that doesn't bother me at all.
No, absolutely not.
So with the last pick of the draft, of course, the ceremonial goalie was taken. We would be remiss if we did not take a goalie the entire draft. Was again, oh my God, 6'5", 172-pound Carter Gylander. Drafted 191, ranked 192 by McKeen's. So we matched up pretty well with the McKeen's list. For 2018-19, he played for the Sherwood Park Crusaders. In 22 games, had a 243 goals against and a 915 save percentage, which is good. He
Yep.
had one playoff game with a 195 goals against and a 955 save percentage. He is committed to Colgate University in 2020-21. Colgate, again, great hockey college.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. Seventh round goalie. I mean, that's a project. My notes are big kid still growing, small sample size in a not so great league because he played in the AJHL, which is
Last year,
not
last year they took what 2 or 3 goalies.
uh Bratstrom, Eliason, 2 goalies. I
Two
think it
goalies.
took 2 goalies last year,
Yeah.
but Eliason's a sleeper. Eliason looks like he could be a real solid goalie. Second in the goalie pipeline right now. He surpassed Petruzzelli. I think Van Pottelberg's out now, but Eliason passed
Why do
Petruzzelli
you say
on the
that?
depth chart. I haven't heard anything from him. He's still playing overseas. Not a lot of news, but
Feels like that's his home and he just wants to stay there. That's what it feels like to me. Because if he was good enough to play and he wanted to come over, I think he would have came over by now.
yeah, but Eliason has passed Petruzzelli on the depth chart for goalie. So it's
Yeah.
Larson, Eliason, Petruzzelli. So this kid, I mean, again, goalies are a whole nother monster. They're very hard to project unless you're taking a Spencer Knight who could probably step into the NHL next season. But which is great for Florida because Roberto Luongo is probably going to retire because of his injury issues. and Florida picked up Spencer Knight. But
Yeah, and did you see the rumor today that they tomorrow are going to be meeting with Panarin and Bobrovsky?
did they get? Oh, tomorrow they don't need permission as of
Nope,
tomorrow.
tomorrow's the first day you don't need permission.
Yep, Nashville will meet with Duchesne too.
Yep.
So I think the goalie thing is, if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You used your very last pick of the draft on him, and playing in the AJHO, which is not a prominent league, with decent numbers. Those are good numbers. 243 goals against, 915 save percentage. We'll see how he does at Colgate, but I mean, we've got two pretty good goalie prospects in the pipe right now, and we didn't necessarily need to hit on one this season.
Absolutely. I think Larson is the guy that's closest to the NHL. I think you might see him in the AHL next year, and then
Yeah, Larson will probably play backup maybe 35% of the games in Grand Rapids, unless he takes over that starting spot from Rebar.
do you like Rebar? Do you think he has any upside? Or
I don't think he's gonna be an NHL goalie. I think because Larson has that edge on him, and I mean, of course, for a reason. He's much younger and seems to be more solid and more consistent. I think that Larson is your Jimmy Howard replacement, and then when Bernie's contract is up, you just grab another free agent goalie at that point for a backup.
so you think Larson's a future starter?
Yep, I think Larson's your future starter, and at some point you may have a good situation on your hands where you've got Eliason, who's also ready to be a starter, and then you've got trade fodder at that point. What would you? I think this draft is hard to grade because it's Yzerman's first draft, and you could clearly see what he was doing. But if I had to grade it, I'd probably give it a B, simply because in the first few rounds there were better players available, but he took what he felt he needed. He took his guys, but I see where he was going with it. I see a theme to it. I see the rebuild happening. So I would give the draft a B.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say right before you even said that. And the reason being is because there's so much unknown about the draft to begin with, and now you took players that not a lot of people know a ton about, and there was probably better players at certain points of the draft, and I mean, but it is what it is. There's going to be points and times like that where Yzerman really, he feels like a guy that's not influenced by what everybody else is thinking or hoping for. I think he's
Or projected rankings.
he's very constructive to his own process, and it feels like he wasn't. Although I'll tell you what, with that first pick that he made with Seider there, I feel like it was flashy because it was really ballsy, and you had the whole league like, oh my god, Steve
Seider did the same thing. Seider's like, "Are you serious?"
But you know what? I mean, Steve Yzerman strikes me as this guy, and now obviously as a GM, we know what he did in Tampa, but obviously that wasn't our team, and we didn't fully watch that. Every move he ever made. But it feels to me like he's a guy that's not going to be influenced by everybody else, and it feels to me like he has a plan going in, and not that every GM doesn't, but it feels like he really has a plan, and he executed the plan that he had.
Yeah, no matter who, no one was going to tell him anything different. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And which to me is good. You don't want to go in with all these expectations of guys who are going to be there and guys that you're being pressured to pick because all these different organizations are saying that they're better prospects. If you go out and look with your own two eyes and you watch games and you say, this is the guy I want because this guy can help our team in this situation.
I'll tell you what guy you're going to be hoping for, and obviously you have to have another down season for this to happen, but at some point,
Lafreniere?
the lottery balls are going to go our way, and we're going to get a first overall pick. So what better would it be than to land Alex Lafreniere, who is supposed to be he's supposed to be a generational talent, right?
Yep.
That's what I've seen
Yeah.
from a lot of different things and videos and stuff. So I
So
mean,
what you're saying is we got to start our draft prep for next year already.
not quite, but if you're listening to the podcast and it is summertime, and I don't know how many of you guys like baseball, but if you want stuff to watch, Alex Lafreniere is something to start to not look forward to, because you don't know if you're going to get him, but start to read up on and watch some
Watch
of the
some
video,
YouTube.
because he is unbelievable to watch. And that guy in a winged wheel, you'd see him opening night 2021.
Yeah.
But
So I would give it, you're gonna grade it around the same, right? You're gonna give it
yeah,
around a
like I
B.
said, about a B.
Yeah. Because we don't know what's gonna happen yet. So we took a lot of unknown. We took a lot of people with pretty, if they pan out, with pretty big upside.
Yeah,
And in God, in 4 or 5 years, our decor is gonna be a million. You're not gonna recognize any of the names.
no, but the thing is, Greg, and everybody here listening to, you got to be very conscious that, like, some of these players that you take, even the guys in the second round, aren't going to pan out. And if you get 3 players from the draft to pan out, or even 2 players from the draft to really pan out and be impact players, and then you won the draft, you
Yeah.
really did a good job. And I feel like this draft is going to be graded, like it or not, on Seider. I
Yeah. And that's
that's
what some
the way
people
it's
are
gonna
people are saying to me, well, this is a waste of a draft. And I say, I mean, I struggle to use the word waste until probably 2 to 3 years down the road, and where the development of this class of prospects is. Then maybe I can say it's a waste or not. But uh, for right now, you sit tight, you see what happens, you see where the development goes, you see where they place these guys and where they're going to play next year, and then what they do. And you really take it a couple seasons at a time and see how their development's going. But you're right. This will be graded on Seider, and people try to bring up the point. Well, this is going to be the Bowen Byram versus Moritz Seider draft, and that's not true, because we didn't have a chance at Bowen Byram, so it
Nope.
doesn't matter. If anything, this will be the Seider versus Broberg
Yep.
draft,
Yep.
because people say you should have taken Broberg. You should take Broberg. The thing about Broberg is he wasn't playing against adults. He was still playing against kids. So Broberg, sure, but I think Seider might have more upside. And I've seen YouTube guys say Seider was the second best defenseman overall.
I would have taken the center, because I still don't like the center depth that we have. I mean, Veleno, who knows? And he's probably not going to be a center coming into the league right away. Athanasiou, we don't believe is a center, and you don't believe he's a center. I
Nope.
personally don't believe he's a center either. And then you have Larkin, who is obviously your number one center. But, and obviously you have Glendening, who is your fourth line center, and you do have some Rasmussen who can play center, and hopefully he can develop there. But you don't have center depth, and I still feel like getting a Zegras there, or getting,
the way I looked at that
someone there,
was
I think would have been better. But you know what? If this works out, it works out.
the way I looked at that was I would have been nice to get one of those guys this year, sure. Was it completely necessary? Probably not. Because again, we probably won't make the playoffs for 2 more seasons.
No.
We've got 2 more drafts by then. So if you say win the lottery next season, you get a top 3 pick. Say you get Lafreniere, there you go. Why you don't need Zegras at that point? You
Yeah,
got
that's true.
Lafreniere. You get a top 3. You take another top center in the draft. So I'm not looking at it we failed right now, we're screwed
No.
going forward, we didn't do it. No, because if we were a contending team, or a really close to contention team, say we've made the playoffs the last 3 years, we got to the semifinals or the conference finals, and we just need to get to that last step. We need to have a really solid draft. Then would I have been mad that we didn't take Zagreus or Caulfield? Yes, but they said last year we were starting the rebuild. I think Ken Holland, after he left, Iserman nuked that plan, and the rebuild starts now. We
Yep.
use those pieces from last year because we got good pieces. We got Flano, we got Zadina, we got Berggren, we got McIsaac. Great. That's a good foundation as long as they work out.
Yep.
But I think the rebuild under Iserman started this weekend.
Yeah,
And
I
that
agree.
rebuild started with blowing up our entire defensive prospect line.
Yeah, and I think I personally think there's going to be some trades. I think that
I do too.
you may see Joe Hickett's gone.
Well, Joe Hicketts is an RFA.
Yeah,
Are
but
you?
I'm just saying you may end up trading him or not even sending him the offer the offer there, the qualifying offer. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if there's going to be any other moves, but I feel like Hickett's could be a guy out the door. I don't think that Cholowski or Hronek will be gone. I think he
No.
likes both of those guys, and I think they're both NHL guys next year.
Iserman has said too that he doesn't really see filling holes through trades. I think he may trade for more picks next year, but I think what you'll see is a couple players having meetings with the Red Wings to discuss their free agent plans. And I think you may see, and it might be a stretch, but the Wings might offer sheet someone like, and I wouldn't see Braden Point at this point because Tampa Bay was able to offload enough salary, but it's looking less and less likely that the Leafs are going to offer Marner a contract with the signings they had today.
But you would
So,
offer Sheet Marner.
yep. I mean, at this point, I might offer sheet Marner.
You don't think it's a scummy thing to do?
No, no, especially because you look at Toronto. They at this point with their cap, they can't re-sign him, not for what he's worth and not for anything that he's going to accept.
Yeah, but what is the number? 11?
Well, he wants a shorter deal. So he wants a shorter deal. So if you offer him 9.5 for 5 years, 9.5 for 4 years.
Yeah, I'm into that. You have to give up 3 first-round picks, though, don't you?
Actually, no, at that point it might only be 2.
Yeah,
Um,
which is a lot to me. But
but
Marner would be the only player that I would do that for. Well,
but
outside of
you can look at the other thing you can look at is that you can look at getting more first round picks for current players that you have. So if you say we got Mitch Marner, holy shit, we don't need Anthony Mantha, or we don't need Athanasiou anymore. We might be able to get a first round pick for them for someone that really needs a player like an impact player. Maybe you trade Athanasiou and a second for someone's first,
yeah.
or Athanasiou and a third for someone's first. I mean, it's all up in the air. Even if you have to use an offer sheet, you can get them back.
I feel like there might be a little bit of players in free agency. I don't know with who, but I feel like there could be a little bit of player in free
So
agency here.
so if you were to offer 9.5 for 4 years to Mitch Marner, you would be giving the Leafs 2 first round picks, a second round pick, and a third round pick.
Oh, that's a lot.
It's a lot, but like I said, you could get those picks back. Plus, next season the Red Wings have extra picks. So if you have to give up a first, a second, and a third next year, in 2020, we have our first. We've got 2 seconds and 2 thirds.
So if we could
So
get a first back, we'd be all set then.
if you could get another first for next year, that's fine. Great. I'll give that up, no problem, because you still have a first, second, and third round pick if you can get another first. So
I think
we've got.
The problem is I think the Leafs would match it.
I don't think they'll be able to at that point. Dubas said that it's not guaranteed that they will match an offer sheet to Mitch Marner.
Well,
So
I'll tell
I
you
think that's where we're going to leave it tonight.
Yeah, we can discuss that all night long, and if that happens, then we'll have an emergency podcast. But
Yeah, we'll do a live stream.
Yeah.
But Tyler, let's get your final thoughts and your Twitter handle.
My final thoughts is, nothing today is franchise altering right now, but in the next coming weeks and months as the seasons go on and we start to see these kids developing, playing in their junior teams and their college teams, and even some of them maybe in the AHL at some point this year. you'll start to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you see some of these kids playing for the World Junior teams and stuff like that. My final thoughts, though, I mean, good job by Eiserman. He stuck to his guns. He did what he wanted to do, and he came in with a plan and he executed it. He didn't take the best player available. He drafted for need, and he drafted for what he thought would make this team better, in the future. And I can't complain about that. You can follow me on Twitter at SealDog91.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo Tyler. It's building for the future. It's nothing that's going to impact the team right now, and we shouldn't have expected anything to impact the team right now. But you're building big, you're building tall, you're building heavy, you're building fast, and you're building right-handed defensemen, and you're bulking your decor. And I even saw on Twitter today, if this decor isn't spectacular and doesn't look better in 3 seasons, 4 seasons down the road, the entire scouting department's getting fired. There's no reason to keep them around. If they scouted that many defensemen, picked that many defensemen, and that many failed, and that the decor doesn't improve, then you're getting a new scouting staff and you're getting new front office people. So I'm patient. Eiserman preaches patience. I'm gonna be patient. I'm gonna see how these guys pan out, and hopefully we hit some home runs with this draft. But you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, almost anywhere you can find a podcast. That's where we're at. You can also find our merch on redbubble.com. If you search the Grindline and go to our shop there, we have a bunch of t-shirts up there for sale. If you look through our Twitter, you can see some samples of them there. Me and Ryan wore our logo shirts to the draft party. Again, thanks everyone for coming